the last time you had an idea that felt too out there to say. Maybe it was a completely different approach to a problem everyone else was already trying to solve in the same old way. Maybe it was a question no one was asking. Perhaps it was a direction that went against the obvious path. What did you do with it? If you're like many people, you kept it to yourself, because the risk of looking silly, out of touch, or like you'd misread the room simply felt too high. Today, we're talking about why that's costing you and your team way more than you realise. There's a pattern in workplaces. When a group is asked to generate ideas, the ideas that get surfaced and discussed first are the ones that feel most familiar, most safe, and most aligned with what's already been decided. Ideas that are genuinely different, those ones that come from an unusual angle, that challenge the framing, that don't fit the expected format, they tend to get filtered out before they even enter the conversation. Not because they're bad, because they feel risky to say. And the people who do say them, they often have to work twice as hard to be heard. They get labelled as difficult or not a team player, or someone who doesn't understand how we do things here. So the unconventional thinking, which is often exactly what a stuck problem needs, stays hidden. And the organisation keeps solving new problems with old thinking. Weird Wisdom's fourth principle is about exploring the unconventional. It's not about being different for its own sake. It's being brave enough to follow a thought where it leads, even when it doesn't fit the expected way of doing things. It's about noticing your own habits of thought. Do you dismiss ideas quickly because they seem too out there? Do you assume something won't work because you haven't seen it done before? Do you stifle your own voice because it doesn't sound like everyone else's? Almost every innovation that we now take for granted began as someone's unrealistic idea. Someone was willing to challenge a norm, ask a better question, or take a different route. And the world changed because of it. Exploring the unconventional doesn't require you to be the loudest or most confident person in the room. It requires you to be open enough to notice what you're seeing and brave enough to say it. Now, this is where it gets practical. Meetings are often where unconventional ideas go to die. The pace is fast, the hierarchy is visible, the agenda is set, and the pressure to stay on track pushes out anything that feels tangential or unusual. But meetings can also be where the most valuable conversations could happen if the conditions are right. I've put together a digital resource called Weird Wisdom in Meetings. Make every meeting matter. One of the things it includes is a practical question you can use in almost any meeting. What's the wildest solution we haven't considered? It sounds playful, but when asked sincerely, consistently surfaces ideas that wouldn't have come through the standard agenda. Other phrases that open up unconventional thinking. Here we go. If anything were possible, what would we do? What's an idea no one else would suggest? What are we assuming here that might be wrong? Exploring the unconventional takes personal courage. Not that dramatic kind, The consistent kind. The kind that says, I'm going to put this idea in the room, even though I'm not sure how it will be received. Now, there's also a second layer of courage here. Backing other people's unconventional ideas when they're being dismissed. So when you hear someone offer a thought that's getting quickly moved past, you can say, wait, I think there's something in that. Can we explore it more? It's enormously powerful because when you create space for someone else's unconventional thinking, you're changing what's acceptable to say in that room. And that changes what a group can discover together. Here's something I'd like you to try this week. In your next meeting, team conversation in the hallway, notice the moment when you have a thought that feels slightly too weird to say. Say it anyway. Start with, this might be off, but here's what I'm noticing. Then see what happens. Not because it'll work out perfectly, but because the act of saying it changes what's possible in that room. In the next video, we're going into questioning norms, the invisible rules that shape how work gets done, and why asking, is this still serving us, might be the most useful question you can ask. See you then.